Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy! Great girlfriends, I'm so excited again, as usual, to bring an amazing guest to you today. And we're going to have a conversation that has been buzzing in every circle that I know of and in our Great Girlfriend community on Facebook, all over the internet. We're talking about the Great Resignation. And it's such a timely conversation because I know that so many of you are in the middle of the what should I do next? Or how should I do it next? Or should I even do anything different? Phase of your career. And so I thought it'd be great to bring on a great girlfriend who had that same aha, curious question mark moment in her own life and figured out how to make the dream job come true right where she was. So I'm so happy to introduce to you Kristen Harris. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, it's so nice to be with you, Sybil.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
How are you today?
You know what? I'm doing wonderful. It's a little chilly here in the Midwest, but thankful for this opportunity to get to chat with you and my other girlfriends today.
Oh, I'm so glad you're on. Can I tease you for a second? Can I let you know that it is a whopping 77-ish here in
Um,
Los Angeles?
that is a huge tease. I think we're in the 20s, probably mid 20s, 25, 26.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, I feel for you. Whenever you're ready for some warm weather, I know a place. That's all I can say to you.
okay, I'm coming. I'm coming.
I
I'll
know
be there.
I know a place. Tell me something special that really made today meaningful for you.
Well, obviously, I've been looking forward to this since I first woke up this morning. But today was also special because it's the first day that our kids are back in school after being out for President's Day, end of the quarter, and also a couple of snow days that we had last week. So that was special. It was special
Oh.
for me to get in the car and drive them to school and drop them off. That was special.
Yes, freedom. Shout out to every mom who did the drop off and felt the freedom and the release and because you love them. We love them so much. But there's nothing like that separation. That good.
Yes, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, but yeah, it was almost like I had a little PTSD from the pandemic. They've been home for 5 days. So
And you kind of itching like, are they staying? What's happening here?
what is happening? But yeah, so that
Yeah.
was pretty special, but I'll be excited to go pick them up in a few hours as well.
Oh, and how old are they?
So we've got two, a 14-year-old that's in high school. So she's a freshman this year. So that's
Uh-huh.
been a really exciting transition. And then our little guy is 8 years old. He's in the second grade. So very
Oh,
different stages, and they
yes.
equally challenge us in all the best ways. But shout out to all my, all my parents out there because boy, I tell you, they definitely grow and stretch us. But it's
Oh
wonderful.
my goodness. I know. I know it's introduced you to other facets of life. And I have a 13-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. So I have an eighth and a fifth grader. And there's parts of the world that I wouldn't have even seen had it not been for becoming a mom. And even looking at life differently, Kristen. But before we get into some of those different choices that we find ourselves making as women, women with careers, women who are building legacies just for an entire family and having to think, not for ourselves independently, but also thinking for our family and the structure that we need to have for each chapter of our life. Tell everyone who you are, what you do, and what makes the work you do so meaningful for you.
Absolutely. So I am Kristen Harris. I am a wife, a mother, a girlfriend, a daughter, and really just also proud to be here as a career woman. I mean, my
Uh-huh.
goodness, that is also a large part of who I am at work and also in the community. So I work for Hallmark Cards, and it is as magical as it probably sounds to some of you. It has been where I started my career. I was an intern when I first walked the halls of Hallmark, and 15 years later, I am still there. It has certainly been a wonderful place thus far to grow my career. At this stage in my career, I am leading Hallmark's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts for the
Mm.
entire enterprise. So I'm in a newly
Wow.
created role, and it is as big as it sounds. I support all of Hallmark Cards, Crown Media, which is the Hallmark channel, and then also Crayola, which many people don't know is one of our brands, but is a part of our family.
What? So, okay, let me just pause for a second. I saw the crayons behind you and I thought, oh, her kid left her crayon. Oh, those crayons were left on her desk. I did not realize that Crayola is part of the entity now, the enterprise, I should say. That's fantastic to hear.
It
Has it always
is.
been or?
Yes, so for decades, yes, we acquired
Wow.
a small company that was called Benny and Smith, and now
Yeah.
has transitioned to Crayola, and it fits in so perfectly with who we are, and why
Mhm.
our brand is there to help people, make meaningful connections.
Oh, I love that. So, okay, Kristen, you've seen a lot over the course of your years at Hallmark, and you're even seeing it in the market. I mean, we go on LinkedIn and the titles are flipping over, like bed sheets. It's just people are moving and migrating to different facets of their life, their career. They're making new choices. What has it been like? What has been your experience in the workplace with the Great Resignation and the choices that you're seeing women make as of now as a result of the pandemic?
Yes. Oh, yeah, it is very real here as it is everywhere else. And so in my career, but then also, as I'm talking with others, my colleagues externally as well. I mean, this is real. And but it also can be exciting. It can be an
Yes.
opportunity for change and for growth. And honestly, I have to admit, I was a part of the Great Resignation, like if we use kind of that term. It just so happened that I am still a part of the same organization. So I really like to think of it as the Great Renegotiation. Like I think
I
that this is the
love that.
time. I think this is the time for us to renegotiate what it is that we want and that we need for ourselves and for the people that we care about and that we love and that love us. So I'm seeing absolutely people reprioritizing what's important, putting mental health up at the top of the list where it probably should
Yes.
have been all
Yes.
along. Putting, career growth and advancement and achievement of those goals up at the top of the list where it should have been all along. And then also, really being fulfilled, having your passion and your purpose connected to the work that you do, because we give so much of ourselves as career individuals, like in organizations, but also as entrepreneurs. So I think that those things now have risen up as
Yes.
things that are key drivers in how we determine where we want to align ourselves in the work that we do.
So, speaking of the great renegotiation, which I think is so great, right? Because we start to realize, wait, there were terms that I wish I had considered when I said yes initially, and I don't know if they even if I qualify to bring these to the table, but they matter to me. And who else to bring them to the table but you, right? When you know that life is calling for more, it's time for you to ask for more. People can't always see that on the other side of the table, and it's up for us to really renegotiate according to what we
Absolutely.
want to see. What was
Absolutely.
that like for you? Because I read where you wanted to, make the choice that many others are making, which is to exit one chapter and say farewell. It's been great, but I need more out of my life, out of my career. And instead, Hallmark said, "Wait a minute, girl."
Hold
Not
on,
so
wait a
fast, Kristen. Give us a chance. Like we
minute.
want to be a part of that. Yeah.
So my story is maybe a little bit unique, but I, am happy to share it. If it provides inspiration, if it provides a little bit, of like a, reinforcement that you got
Yeah.
this, girl, because you do, right? So I have an engineering background. I worked hard in college and stayed there 5 years to get the engineering degree that I have. And so I did start at Hallmark in an operations role that was kind of leveraging it. But I moved around to multiple job opportunities, until I, found the right fit. But it
Mhm.
afforded me an opportunity to get to know and learn parts of the business and to get to kind of grow a network within the organization. I went and did engineering work, but then I also was in procurement. So I did a buying role
Mm.
for a while. I went and
Mhm.
led the operations team. I supported our retail organization. And, for one of the largest retailers in the world, Walmart, I was the operations manager for our Hallmark team, Walmart. And man, it was wonderful to get to go to all of these various areas of the organization and see and
Mhm.
learn and grow my exposure and my experience in my career. But at the same time, I was growing my family, and so when we,
Mhm.
kind of hit this period where we had the intersection of the pandemic, and we had the intersection of this racial reckoning that was happening in our country,
Yes.
like I had just gotten to this place where I was like, I enjoy the work that I'm doing, but does it really matter? Like, is it really making a difference? And as I was watching,
Mm.
um, advocates and activists like really doing the work, there was
Yeah.
something that was calling me to want to be able to play a bigger role in helping, wherever it might be that I land, but helping people to be, their best selves. And so I made the
Mhm.
decision to just do a career pivot. So I was taking an intentional pause, and I, I signaled to the organization that I was going to resign. Didn't have
Mhm.
another job in mind, but I just was like taking a leap out on faith, which
Kristen, that's
sometimes
major.
that's major. It's so major. And
Major.
I'll be honest, like I talked to my husband, I was like, he's gonna tell me, girl, do not quit your
You
job.
make it back in that office. Yeah.
And he was like, nope. He was like, if this is what you want to do, like, do it. We'll be fine. We'll figure it out. And then I called my mom and my dad, and I was like, surely, like they're from a different generation. Like they are definitely
Yeah.
going to tell me, do not walk off of that job. Like
Right.
are you really, thinking about this the right way? And even they said, I hear where you're going. I hear your purpose, and if you are aligned in your faith and you are aligned within your family unit that this is what you can do, then do it. So they supported it. So,
Mm,
so I
awesome.
signaled that's what I was going to do. And then what I said is on my way out, my last gift to the organization is going to be, as you all are thinking about the 20,000, plus employees that work here, here are some things that I know will be important as they move forward. Because I've always supported and had a passion for diversity and inclusion. I can't not,
Mhm.
as a Black
Mhm.
woman, that is just
Mhm.
important to me. And so I started just talking with various leaders, and really that's what kind of led to this shift, because I think through those
Mm.
conversations and my ability to have real dialoge in a
Yeah.
safe space, because I thought I was leaving anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
you're like,
it,
"On my
it was
way out, you
really
should know
important.
this."
Yes, exactly. It's really important to just have that honest dialogue. But what I think it was too, from their perspective, it's like, you know what, we really needed to hear these things, and we really needed to
Mhm.
see someone who was very passionate about helping us to think about how we shift and focus and
Mhm.
elevate our what has always been a commitment to these types of things in our organization. So it wasn't that we
Yeah.
were not doing things the right way, it was that the world was changing and our consumers
Yes.
were changing, and so we needed to in some ways, elevate and reinvent the way that we thought about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's kind of what led to the shift. As I had the opportunity to have those conversations, I said, well, whoever comes in to do this work, like, God bless them. And then they ended up offering me the role that I created for someone else. Didn't know who it was going
So
to be, but it ended up being me.
right, which is so interesting, Kristen. Had they never asked you what you thought about these things, or had you never offered those opinions? What
So that's the thing, is absolutely I had, but here's what sometimes you all may recognize is true within organizations, is that, like, you have different levels of influence, depending upon
Yes.
where you're working and whose ear that you have, right?
Right.
So as I continued to ascend within the organization, I had a different set of individuals and executives that I was talking with, right? Like my network was
Right.
growing into this space where these were the people who were able to hear an feedback or to hear a suggestion and actually go make it happen. And I
Right.
think that was what the big shift was, is that for some of them, it was like, oh no, I'm ready to listen and I'm ready to actually
Hmm.
do something about it. And so I always tell people and I encourage them, still today within our organization, like never stop sharing the feedback. Like you will eventually get to somebody who is
Hmm.
the right person who needs to hear it, who can make the change.
That's so good. So, okay, how do we renegotiate? Where do we start? I hear you saying continue to give feedback, which is so important. A lot of times we think that diversity feedback is reserved for the diversity people, right? So we don't share our feedback at times because we feel like it's not our role. Our role is, if your role is in ops, maybe that's not something you feel like you should offer to the table. But there's so many ways that you can contribute your perspective in an organization. So I hear you saying give that feedback. What are some of the other ways that we renegotiate when you realize that life is asking you to do more, to step up, to rise to the occasion in a different way, or to even expose more of your highest potential? Because I feel like, Kristen, who knew that this role was waiting for you except God and Hallmark? and
Yeah,
so,
yeah, because it didn't even
and you had to
exist.
step into it. Yeah.
That's
And they
exactly right. It
created
didn't
it.
even exist. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I, would encourage is first, like, do a little bit of self-reflection, right? Like, let's
Yes.
not be limited by like what jobs are on the posting board or what, someone's tapped you on the shoulder to do, right? Because we typically, like, well, if they ask me to do this, then that's probably the thing I should go do. But first, start
Mhm.
like if you're going to renegotiate, like figure out what you want. When I was in procurement, we used to call it like the envelope when we were going to be going into a negotiation. It's like, inside your envelope, like set, alignment to the things that you want and what your bottom line is going to be and the things that you must have and prioritize. Like,
Mm.
let's try to get everything, but definitely prioritize what's most important so that you can make
Yeah.
sure that the things that you do walk out of that negotiation with are the things that you need most in order to be successful. So do some prioritization and some self reflection. And then, like we talked about, go have the conversation, share the feedback. If you are a member of that organization, if you are an employee, a manager, an executive, you have the ability to share your voice. Like that's
Yeah.
why they hired you. Share your voice and be as loud and proud as you need to be in order to get those messages heard. And if you can't do that, then I think that's when you need to begin to determine whether or not that's the right place for you to be, right?
Mhm.
That should be a part of what's on your list, right? Is that I'm in a place where and I'm in an organization where my voice is valued, that
Mhm.
that my opinions and my feedback and what I'm bringing to the table are things that the organization wants to see, and they know that I'm here to give that and are going to give me a platform in order to be able to express it. So I think
Mhm.
those are some of the things. And then you just make the ask. And that's the hard
Yeah.
part. It's hard for women in general. It's particularly hard for women of color, and really, really even more hard for Black women. We don't have at times the same network of support that's like helping us, that's in our ear, giving us that encouragement. We're looking at the job description and we're trying to check all the boxes they have and then
Yeah.
anticipate the other 10 things they didn't list that we think we need to have before we even apply. And I think
Yes.
you got to let that stuff be out the window. Nobody else is
Mhm.
thinking about it that way. So throw that out the window.
You've
You
heard it, ladies. You have
I've
heard it from
heard it here. Throw that ideology out the window. It is holding us
Yeah.
back. It is holding us back from really being able to step into our potential. You
Yeah.
can grow in roles. We see that all the time. You need
Mhm.
enough to be able to come in and begin to build relationships and to be credible and knowledgeable about the industry and about the field. But you can grow in a role just like anyone else can. And so it's
Mhm.
time for us to stop thinking that we're not worthy just because we don't check every
Mm.
single box and all the extra boxes.
Mhm. Is that not one of the most powerful things you could have said? Is so true. Is we disqualify before we've even looked at how we qualify, right? We're like, I don't have. Instead of looking at all the things we do bring to the table. And I think a lifelong learner, the spirit of learning is what goes way further than even, bringing all the qualifications and being so well versed at things that may not even be essential to where you want to grow in a career.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So true.
Okay. So you talked about also having the ears of very important people who can really take your feedback and move it into special rooms. So I look at that as sponsorship. And how important is it for women in their careers to have sponsors? To have someone who can speak their name in their absence and open doors that they didn't even know existed, right? Because here you're sitting in a position, Kristen, that was curated and created based off of your thought leadership. And also, I feel like there was some advocacy in high places, right?
There absolutely was, and sponsorship is so very important. And I talk about this, a lot to individuals who I mentor, but even others in my peer group. Um, there's a difference between mentorship and sponsorship.
Yes.
And you have to know the difference, and you probably want to have both in your kind of like in your network.
Hmm.
But a mentor is a person that you can like talk to for advice. You can like share with them how you're thinking about something, and they will give you good advice. They will be truthful and honest with you. But that relationship is one that is definitely helpful in helping you think about how you want to go about or expand upon an idea or a project, or someone that you can that's a trusted friend and partner in work. But it is
Hmm.
not the same as a sponsor. A
That's right.
sponsor is a person who is like in the room when you're not in the room, and who can make things happen for you when you are not even aware that those conversations are happening. That's someone who's got the juice already. And so
Yes.
you need to be identifying like who are the people who can make things happen, who maybe it's a mentorship relationship that's grown into a sponsorship, but
Hmm.
sponsors are the people who are opening the doors. They're the ones that are pulling the chairs up to that table and saying, I saved you a seat. And you need
Yes.
to have both. And it is important, like I mentioned, to just be able to recognize the difference, and make sure that you're identifying some true sponsor relationships within your network, and maybe even have the conversation with them, that's how you want them to play, and that's what you want them to be for you. I think that that's something that we don't always do, but is possibly important in defining what the relationship looks like, is for you to just be honest about what you would like for them to do in terms of helping you to grow and advance your career. Like
Yeah.
the worst they can say is, no, thank you, I'm not interested. But at
Hmm.
least that way you'll know who you've got that is team you, and that's important.
Yeah. Kristen, I have to say, and you may hear a lot of this often with women of color. I hear so many women asking for mentorship. And even getting emails about mentorship and wanting to be mentored and building a podcast and community, et cetera. And I'm always like, no one ever asked for sponsorship. Why
Mhm.
don't we? Maybe we feel like it's out of our reach, and I feel like that is the thing that helps you get to the stars, is really having that sponsorship in place. But I do feel like there's a gap for us as women of color in asking for people to support us in that really high and most impactful way. And I'm not sure if you see it in the work that you're doing now, but I hear it so much, a lack there, just a lack of the confidence to ask for sponsorship.
There is absolutely simple. You hit it right
Yeah.
on the head, and it is more prominent, within certain cultures, which is not helpful, right?
Yeah.
Because there's already fewer of right
Yeah.
of that demographic, and so I think it makes it even harder and even challenging. And so it might mean that you need to align to somebody who does not look like you, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lean into where we are in our country right now and in the world right now. There's a lot of visibility around what it is
Yeah.
that we need to do to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so lean into that. It's like,
Yeah.
absolutely, I want to be a benefactor of all of this work that these organizations are doing. Raise your hand,
Yeah.
and absolutely accept all that they are willing to give in order to try to create equity. Because
Yeah.
that is what we're talking about here. That's what we're saying is
Hmm.
the thing that's been missing, or that has not been tracking on par with counterparts, is that we don't have the sponsorship, which means that we haven't been included
Hmm.
in discussions and advancement of our careers, which means we don't have the seats at the top of the
Hmm.
C-suite or on the
Hmm.
board of directors.
So good. Okay, Kristen, you've given us a lot. So, so much that I feel is so useful to women who are just in that place of consideration, um, and who are really looking for ways that they can contribute and make their difference in their own career spaces, even in their companies where they sit. What's the next for you in terms of your message and your movement, inside and outside of Hallmark? How will you mobilize your message even further?
So internally, because I'm in this role, I'm able to leverage kind of the rooms that I'm in to further this dialogue, right? So we're setting
Yeah.
goals, we're setting objectives, we're setting action plans, and building strategy to increase kind of our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, kind of in several categories. So that's from the employee experience perspective. So elevated intentional learning and cultural awareness, like expanding that, thinking about recruiting and retention and talent development and succession planning, our consumer and our customers. So, I mean, we
Mhm.
as major brands have a responsibility and accountability to our viewers and to our shoppers of the products that we sell, for that to be reflective of them. And so we've got work that we're doing, and hopefully, people are really seeing the authentic way that it's showing up, our
Mhm.
commitment to that and the changes that have been made. And then within the community, when I think about our commitment to corporate philanthropy and volunteerism and supplier diversity, we've got a lot of buying power. And so we have the
Mhm.
ability to help drive advancement as it pertains to diversity and inclusion through that as well. So internally, we're going to keep pushing those messages forward and keep making progress and holding ourselves accountable to it.
Mhm.
Externally, we talked about kind of my role as a mom, and then my role as a friend, and in the community, I am a member of a couple of nonprofit boards, and so I think there it is being able to kind of leverage what I've been able to be exposed to over the course of my career to just create more champions of change, to empower more people to know that their voice is meaningful and important and necessary, and
Mhm.
giving them that encouragement to be able to speak up in the places that they have the ability to do so, to help
Mhm.
continue to advance this. I'm so committed, and I see this new generation like they are our future, and it
Yeah.
is energizing. It is
Yes.
energizing to see all that they are already doing. And so I'm
Yeah.
trying to raise two people who will be, like worthy of their spot here.
Yeah.
Amazing social justice citizens. But then also, like I said, in these other spaces, just trying to help provide like my knowledge and expertise to infuse into the other places that I have the ability to influence. So that's
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
that's kind of my plan. I haven't yet. I need to do my vision board still for this year to like kind of
Mhm.
like set those big audacious goals. But right now there's so much work that
Yeah.
is being done that I'm excited about the fact that we're still talking about this 2 years later.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
the murder of George Floyd. Like this is
Yeah.
encouraging that we're still having the dialogue, and we just need to make sure we keep on the gas.
That's right. Oh, keep on the gas. Come on. Let's say that again.
Keep on the gas.
To keep on the gas. Oh my goodness, Kristen, it's been such a pleasure to connect with you. For those great girlfriends who might want to ping you and ask you questions about, just little particulars about your pivots and, those questions you may even ask, or the language you used in some of those very tricky conversations, where can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Kristen Harris, and I'm sure that you'll have the information for how to spell that. I'm an EN Kristen, but definitely reach out. I love to have dialogue, and appreciate so much, that we had a chance today to talk about this for a little bit, and looking forward to continued discussion, conversation, and waiting to see us all win. Like,
Yes.
Issa Rae said, she's like, it's feeling like me season. I want to leave that with all of you. I hope you feel it.
Yeah.
It is me season. It is you season, and just step into that.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the work that you're doing and even stepping into those big shoes for that role. It was designed and curated with your thought leadership, and we're just excited to continue to watch how that unfolds for Hallmark and anywhere else that you place your footprint. So thank you so much for being so dedicated.
Thank you, Sybil, and thank you to all my great girlfriends.
All right, great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends, follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends, and on Twitter at _great GFS. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.